This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, your pop culture home.
Yeah, Frank here has got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
Billiard room.
No, not billiard, not the billiards. It was
Billiards room.
Come on already. Come on, we call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game!
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said.
Why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to Be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Criscola.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
D'Lo Brown interfered with a frog splash and hit it on Severn, getting some revenge.
I know.
What the hell was it? What was that laugh? It was like an old cartoon fucking Hanna-Barbera dog or something. It was like Snidely. Was that the fucking dog that laughed like that?
JR's got a little more time than I do to sit and actually write a whole show.
This is the third time you said it to me today. Now I'm really curious.
Well, I'm not saying that you have nothing to do. I'm just saying
I'm curious how I have more free time than you.
I'm gonna.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I know it's been a rough, and I'm not used to this long, grueling podcast schedule.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Are you is this joke going to go on for the next hour?
Come on, did you say D'Amato, late 20s, 30s?
Just being,
and you included yourself in that as well?
I was being nice to him. I am still technically in my 30s.
I think they might hit a shock wall.
What the fuck is a shock wall?
Is that the Shockmaster's wall?
He's going to go through the shock wall.
Yeah, I like Big Dick myself. PTB Nation, let me know what
Here's
you're
our
doing.
opener.
To do worse than Josh Richards.
Nacion! Welcome back to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, and I have quite the interesting little roundtable for you here tonight as we look at the first half of pro wrestling in 2013. We're about pretty much exactly halfway through the year, 6 months down, 6 to go. Let me start with bringing in the man who's got, 40 down and 40 to go in his life. That's Scott Criscola. So.
What was that, the Ricardo Rodriguez Open?
That is our main competition on Google right now.
It's good to always talk to you, JR. Welcome, PTB Nation, to episode 234 of the Place to Be Podcast. And we do have the most unique roundtable this evening as we discuss the first 6 months of 2013 professional wrestling through the whole scope. And with our certain members of the roundtable, we can kind of go beyond the big three of WWE, TNA, and ROH. Shall we bring them in? Well, let me bring them in because it's been a while since we've had one of these gentlemen on. Let's bring in the guy that some are more familiar with recently, a big contributor to PlayToBeNation.com. Our good friend from a fan between the hedges, big Bulldogs fan, Chad Campbell. Chad, how are you?
Doing great, guys. How are y'all doing tonight?
Did you say from between the hedges?
Yeah, that's what they call Georgia Bulldog fans.
That's
Sanford
stupid.
Stadium, because they play with hedges around the field, so they're called.
That may be
between
the
hedges.
stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Between the hedges.
They have hedges.
Because that's where northern.
Between the hedges. How's that stupid? Makes
I-
perfect sense.
I couldn't hear from my vantage point, Chatham.
Do you like that? Please have all questions in writing. And another guy from the south, a little bit more north of you, though, Chad, but it's been a while since this man's been on here. The great, awesome purveyor of the history of WWE.com, a man. That's right. The Southern Sweat Hog himself. Mr. Graham Cawthon. Graham, welcome back.
Hi.
It is always a pleasure.
Sweat hog, huh?
Well, you play the Welcome Back Cotter theme.
Oh, I don't get it. This is the 2 straight nights of Welcome Back Cotter references that just went right over my head.
Well, you started this one, so.
Yeah.
So
All right.
now I'm picturing myself with that fro and the mustache.
I picture with Rick Rude's
Yes!
training outfit on.
And I've got the tights on as well.
Yes. Oh, boy. All right. Tonight, gentlemen, we are going to delve into the first 6 months of Professional Wrestling 2013. WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor. Thanks to Chad, maybe we can delve into a little Shakara and some other outside promotions. How do you want to start this, JR? What do you think we should do? Let's dive in. What do you want to do?
Let's talk about the best sarcophagus match of the year. I'll turn that over to Chad.
That Prince Devitt was in.
Chad and Prince Devitt in the sarcophagus together.
Yes.
I did like Parv throwing shade down on Chad on the Where the Big Boys Play about Prince Devitt. That was pretty awesome.
Never changes.
Never changes. Okay. Hey, you know what? We always go in reverse and we build and build. Let's go. Let's bring out the big guns right off the bat. Graham, kick us off. Your number one wrestler of the half year. U.S. department.
Well, I mean, this is heavily influenced by what's going on right now. But I probably would have picked this person regardless. Daniel Bryan. I think in the past month, especially month to 2 months, he's been on fire with more of a single spotlight. But even prior to that, with Kane, the backstage antics, but also just the in-ring, I think he and Kane have elevated the tag team division. They held the belts longer than any team in several years in WWE. And they've been entertaining both in the ring and backstage. And I think WWE has big plans for him. I am planning to go to New Orleans next year, and I would put down a lot of money if he wins the Royal Rumble and gets the title shot at Mania.
You think he's a made man at this point, Graham? And kind of bulletproof in that Jericho level?
He is heading that direction. But, I mean, I remember when they were building up Benoit before the 2004 Rumble. And, yeah, I mean, retrospect, yeah, he was going to win. But watching at the time, I mean, there were several other guys that could have been in that position. So I think he's in a very good spot. But I think he's still got a ways to go before he's, quote-unquote, a made man.
Chad, you agree with Daniel Bryan, or you got someone else in mind?
I think Daniel Bryan's a good choice, but I think if I had to pick a wrestler of the year right now, I think I'd actually go with Antonio Cesaro in ring. He has had a lot of really great matches with a wide variety of opponents. Had a great match with Kofi Kingston. Had a great match, I thought, with Sheamus. Both of those are on main event. Even drug something good out of Miz, who's been pretty dreadful this year. Had good stuff with down in NXT. He's had a couple of matches now with El Generico, Sami Zayn, and also Adrian Neville, who wrestled on the Indies as Pac. So I think as far as just in-ring action, to me, he's been the best person in the world so far this year.
Who do you think's been the best overall package?
Best overall package, I think you'd probably have to go Daniel Bryan, just because Cesaro hasn't had a chance to really shine much. Besides, he's been buried on a lot of main events. I think, Daniel Bryan's certainly been very good in the ring, and now that he's had a chance to break out character-wise, although I do think he needs to stop calling himself the weak link, because he's winning signature matches now, but he's certainly been thrusted into a spotlight position, and I hope they stick with him.
Who would have thought we'd be sitting here at this point saying, "Oh, Daniel Bryan's the better all-around guy, but someone else is a better pure in-ring guy"? I mean, who would have ever thought he would break out to the point where we're calling him, we're looking at him in the all-around package division and not the just you would have thought in the past, oh, just a guy who's great in the ring and that's it. But right. He's just had phenomenal. His mic work has really stepped up, and his character has just been great, really since when he won the cash in on the Money in the Bank. Really, since then.
Even before the singles push, I mean, week in and week out, these matches with the Shield, whether it be tag matches or six-man tags, stealing the show, no matter if it's SmackDown or Raw. And he's been, there might have been 3 or 5 other guys in the match, but, I mean, really, he's carried those to some degree.
All right, Scott, break the tie for us here.
It's funny I'm about to say this guy. I think he's been personality of the year, even though I rip the crap out of him in my recaps every week. But I got to give a few votes to Sheamus because
what? That's a Russo swerve right there.
Look, he's been one of the most annoying human beings on the planet.
I guess so. I mean, all
But
you do
ever
is
since-
piss and moan
I will
about him
say
every
this.
review you do and
I
every
know.
show we have.
Ever since Mania, he hasn't lost a match, which is also annoying. But I will say this: he keeps crowds hot. He may not be entertaining me, but we're looking a little more objective here. However, when you talk about the all-around package, it's got to be Daniel Bryan. I mean, he's had to do stuff pretty much from scratch. But I agree with Graham. There is one guy that's going to get in his way from being, quote, a made man, and that's Vince. We'll talk more about the family later. I don't trust him. I think he's old, dated, and he's going to cause major problems in this company. And I'm leery of what Daniel Bryan's future is as long as old Fred Willard fluff hair there is continuing to call the shots. It's getting very, very unnerving. But yeah, I mean, who would have thought that not one person's even sniffed Punk? But you know what? He hasn't won a big match this year except for Payback, and he had time off. So it's not like he's had a bad year. He just really hasn't been around. And he gave Rock 2 great matches. And notice Rock got booed Monday night.
Yeah.
When his name was announced.
Now, Rock
by,
needs to be gone
Daniel
for a
Bryan.
while. Yeah, Rock needs to be gone for a while.
Yeah, his credit, his house money has run out.
Yeah.
And it's time for him to go back and be fresh again. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Chad, about a couple votes for Cesaro because I've watched the guy I've watched him every week since the start of the year, whether on one of the 3 shows. The guy always puts a great match on, and his record, let's say he's wrestled 25 TV matches. His record's probably like 7-18. Mm-hmm. But he's had maybe 2 out of 25 bad matches. But because of the whole 50-50 shit and how, Sheamus can't lose a match because God forbid he lost at WrestleMania. But I agree with Graham. Daniel Bryan has done everything possible to get himself over with his scraggly hair, the beard, new shirt Monday night. When you get a new shirt, you're usually in pretty good shape. And, he hasn't had a bad match really. And he's pretty much put himself over. Those are the guys that the company respects, or guys that, not that they don't throw them a bone, but they don't need to coddle them. That's a problem I think Alberto Del Rio's had. He's been a mess, and we'll talk about that when we go to a couple more topics. But Daniel Bryan's been great. But as long as Fred Willard fluff hair there is still got some say, I'm a little leery of his future. I'm not going to lie.
All right, here's a little game we could play for our next category. I think it'll be fun. I'm sure you've all heard of the game Marry, Fuck, and Kill. You pick someone you'd marry, someone you'd bang, and someone you'd knock off. So here in the world of wrestling, let's do long-term push, quick push, and then fire. So one guy you would fire from the company right now, one guy you would build long-term around, and one guy you would hot shot to the top. Go ahead, Graham. Kick us off.
Which one is bang?
Bang would be hot shot.
Caitlyn.
Yes. Brunette Caitlyn or blonde Caitlyn?
Whatever she is right now.
Okay.
She looked pretty damn hot dressed as AJ last week, though. I have to say, she looks like a better AJ than AJ.
I'm sorry. I was not really paying attention to the rules because I was setting up for my joke. Can you go over those one more time?
Graham Cawthon, we have your wife on the line with us. This is your life. No, the rules were someone you'd hot shot, someone you'd build long term around, someone you'd fire.
All right. Long term Brian. Hot shot, I would do Barrett. I think he could do a short stint in the main event. It's been a few years at this point. And then fire Drew McIntyre, and that's not a crack on him. I like him, but it's clear that they're not going to do much with him, so he might get better opportunities elsewhere.
All right. How about you, Chadley?
I'd say long term, I would think I would rally and still go behind Punk, even though he's been his long-term history with the ratings is what it is. But I think if they truly got behind him where he felt like an equal to Cena or something like that, he could still be one of the best performers in WWE history, really. Hot shot, maybe... that's tough. I think even maybe a Sheamus right now into the upper mid card, have a main event feud, and then I like him kind of off of that to come down and kind of mess around with maybe the Wyatt family coming in. And then the person I would fire would probably have to be, think maybe Kofi Kingston. Sort of in the same way that Graham said. I think he sort of plateaued somewhat within WWE. I think he could have some kind of fun athletic matches on the indies if he was given a chance, or in a Shelton Benjamin type role that he's been in. So that'd be my choices.
Graham, let me ask you this. Do you think Bryan is someone to build long-term around, or do you think you'd be better off capitalizing on the heat he has and how over he is and hot-shotting him and letting him run short-term? Do you think he has the ability to carry the company for 3 or 4 years? Or do you think it's lightning in a bottle with this kind of guy?
Well, I mean, it's kind of back to the, did anyone think in 92 that Bret Hart could carry the company? True. Did anyone think in 2004, or I'm sorry, in 2003, that Benoit could main event WrestleMania? I think that Bryan brings a lot of their abilities to the ring, but I think he is more entertaining outside of the ring than both of them. And, for the WWE, there's that stereotype of it's the big man's world. But look at all those guys along the way, the Shawns, the Bretts, the Benoits, the Jerichos, the Guerreros, who have made it very, very high. And I think he's the next one. And I think that they could very well build a company around him. Cena can't be doing this forever. And Bryan, without a ton of company exposure, I mean, the applause that he gets is just off the charts. And he's not, up until recently, he is not the focus of the show. But in the tag team matches, let's go Bryan. I mean, it's just, it's special.
Would you say they really built around Benoit long term, though? I mean, to me, that was more of a hot shot thing. Once he got hot and they put the title on him, he had a quick run, and then they put him back down to the mid card. I wouldn't say they really ever focused a promotion around him like they did with Bret, as your other reference.
Well, I mean, Bret did have the longer run.
Yeah.
And I think when Benoit came into that position, shortly thereafter, Orton was everyone's golden child, and so they looked to him to kind of be the next guy, and that didn't work. And then Benoit was just lost in the shuffle. No, I think that's fair. I think for short term, they were building Benoit to be a main event player even without the belt, because when he had the belt, still a lot of the exposure was on Shawn versus Triple H. But I think Bryan could be along the Bret level long term.
It's interesting you mentioned Orton, and Scott, we'll get to your 3 guys in a second, but I wanted to actually ask you, because you've been watching these shows pretty religiously, what's your take on Orton? I know we mentioned him briefly on the headlines we did with Chad a couple weeks ago, where we were saying how, how can you, or maybe it was a different headlines, I forget what show it was, but we were saying how can you basically trust this guy, 2 strikes on him, can they ever really put the title on him? What do you see as his end game here? Is he a guy who ever gets a belt again, or is he just settled into, the old Jake the Snake big boss man role, where he's just there to pop the crowd, getting, every now and then he'll get a juicy storyline. Other than that, he just gets into small mini feuds with matches, and that's all.
Well, it's funny that we bring up Orton because he was going to be one of my 3 guys. I won't say which one, but he was going to be one of my 3 picks for the categories. I feel like Orton has pretty much settled into his role that he's been in since pretty much the end of 2011. Ever since he lost the title at the end of 2011, ever since Miz cashed in on him, he's pretty much been in the same role for the last 17 months or so. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's rankled the management. He's obviously having, some personal issues. Mr. Armento said that his dad, Cowboy Bob, said at the convention a few weekends ago that him and his wife are separated. So, there's a lot of things going on in Orton's life right now. So, I don't know if you can trust him with anything, really. He's definitely he's putting on good matches. I mean, his match last Monday night with Daniel Bryan was very good. And he's not putting on stinkers. He hasn't, he's not mailing it in. I'll give him that. But in terms of anything more than a couple months, I don't know. I wouldn't have him win the Rumble or anything like that. Maybe a heel turn will help.
What about you, Chad? What do you think of Orton?
I think he's pretty much where he's at. He can be sort of like a gatekeeper type role, but I don't think. I think they just got too many possible people that can be a breakout star. I mean, even beyond who we've mentioned, I think of somebody like Dean Ambrose. In a year or two, could be right at that level and possibly be ready for that. That I think deserves a chance because we kind of seen what Orton can do.
Graham, you think Orton has one more reign left in the tank, or is he pretty much peaked?
Oh, I think anyone could have one more reign. It just depends on what kind of program they're working with. I think right now, what keeps Orton relevant is that he's wrestling guys who are relevant, and he's very good. He's very good at what he does. I think a lot of people take for granted how good he is at what he does. But when you see him do the same thing, it's kind of the same Cena thing. You see Cena so often, he's not special, despite everything that he does. So I think if they mix him up a little bit, if they heel turn would not be bad. People have been asking for that since Mania, if not beforehand. But even without that, I mean, he can still do a lot of good in the position he's in for other people.
When's the last time he's been a heel? Was it the Legacy stuff?
Yeah, because he turned face after that.
Yeah.
So he's been a face since 2010?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because because WrestleMania, he fought 27, he fought Punk.
Yeah.
And then Kane, and then the Shield. Yeah.
He's definitely due.
Yeah, he is definitely due.
Do you guys think, and this is going to just be a quick answer, we'll move along. Do you think Orton has left stuff on the table with these violations and just the way his career's gone? Like, do you think he could have been one of the all-time greats?
Easily. He's got the pedigree. He knows how to, to cut promos finally. He's got the look. He's got a good move set, which has definitely improved over time because it was. I mean, you go back to the matches in 05, 06, even beginning of 07, and they're horrendous. Mostly 06. But of course he has, absolutely. Particularly as a heel, I think the face turn should have been much more short term than it has been. I think his pops peaked in late 11 when he won the title at Night of Champions, and then once he lost, he probably should have turned heel in 2012 last year, but he didn't. But I personally think he left a lot on the table. Chad, what do you think?
I think he definitely left a lot of the table, but some of that I kind of place blame at him. And I don't know if I think his best chance would have been for me around 2009 going into the WrestleMania 25 match. I think that's when he had the best opportunity to kind of be the leader of his, coming out of that, being the leader of his faction and legacy. But I mean, I can see him definitely being upper level if everything would have kind of worked out for. But I don't know if he'd have ever reached. I mean, when I think of like all time great, I really kind of get like a Mount Rushmore. That's kind of a select club with only 5 or 6 members in it. And I don't know if he ever would have been quite at that level just because I think he definitely tries, but I don't know if his complete passion and putting it all together is there. Kind of that extra oomph factor.
How about you, Graham? Think he left anything?
Well, I think he did, but on the other side, we've been watching this for decades. But I think for anyone, especially kids who started watching within the past 10 years, he's on that Mount Rushmore. He's good. He's set. He's barring him killing his family, he's a WWE. He's a future Hall of Famer, just from what he's done already. Yes, he's been suspended several times. Yes, he's got some behavioral issues in the past that probably shot himself in the foot. Despite that, look what he did.
Who would you compare him to from our generation? Like, I know you mentioned kids come in, say, 07, 06. He's one of their guys. Who would you compare that to for us who started watching, late 80s, early 90s?
Well, now you put me on the spot.
Let's go. You're a great purveyor.
I don't know, because he's so unique. He's not a carbon copy of anyone. He's got the prison tats of Crush. He's got the
Well, I meant more the
Right.
role he's in. You know, the guy that if you were a fan in the early '80s and you say,
here you go.
Okay.
And this is not an apples to apples. Jake.
Yeah, I think Jake's the best comparison.
Because he, for our generation, and I think even the younger folks realize how well respected he is and his knowledge and his psychology. But at the same time, look at everything he did to hurt his own career.
Would you say he almost had an inverse career of Scott Hall? Whereas Scott Hall started kind of straight and narrow, and his best years were early on, and then kind of self-destructed, as Orton kind of self-destructed early, and then put it together and delivered his best work at the end.
Well, I mean, Orton had some really good stuff with Foley in 04, and when personally I would think self-destruction, I would think, that 2007 European tour where he got sent home, and the suspension that fall where like half a dozen guys were suspended. And I think some of his stuff was after even his first world title run and his stuff with Foley, and I think that was great. And he's done great stuff since too. He can do great stuff every night of the week, but I think they have not given him the ball as much because he has fumbled on key plays.
All right, let's move off of Orton for a few minutes here, and Scott, give us your three, and then we'll go elsewhere.
Okay. I'm going to preface by saying Punk is I'm not putting him on any of these because he's here for the long haul, so there's no point in putting him in there. Long term, easily Daniel Bryan. Hot shot.
You had all that time to think of something, and this you're
well,
leaving us
between
with
two
dead
guys,
air.
and it's between two guys. I'm gonna say Jack Swagger.
Long term, Jack
They just
Swagger.
did that.
No, Hot Shot Jack.
Hot
Swagger.
Shot Jack. Yeah,
Long
they just did
term
that.
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Zeb Coulter is too important, both on and off the camera, to keep him lingering in mid card.
So what would you do with Swagger though, beyond what they just did?
Have a win.
You really think? I don't know.
And Fire, we just talked about him. He was my guy. I think Orton needs to go somewhere with a clean slate. He'd be a stud in TNA. They would kiss his ass every day of the week.
Yeah, but is it worth a guy who, is paid well, always going to be at the upper part of the card, his legacy's intact, he's always going to cash in on merchandise, he's going to make more off his legacy of not leaving than if he left and went to TNA by being, TNA World Champion? I mean, I don't see what's in it for a guy like that to go to TNA at this point. He's got it made. He's going to be, like Graham said, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to get the DVD sets. He's going to get the shirts and the merchandise and the big Hall of Fame weekend and all that shit, Legends matches when he's retired. And I think he kind of, I don't know, I feel like he'd be surrendering a little bit of that if he left to go to TNA for a while.
Well, that depends on, again, he might have a different way of thinking. If he's thinking the way you are, then yeah. But if he's thinking, I deserve to be at the top of the card, I deserve to make main event money, I deserve to be a champion, to have a belt around my waist, and I know I'm not getting it here, he'll go to TNA. If he's thinking the way you're thinking, then he won't. But that all depends on his philosophy. If somewhere on his mind he thinks that having gold around his waist
That'd be a
enhances his legacy rather than stunt it, then it depends. I'm thinking that he's a little short-sighted. As we know, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes.
I'd be shocked if he left. Do you guys agree? I'm not counting if he gets fired. He may get fired. I'm saying he would. I don't think he would leave and go to TNA on his own volition.
Not for a while, I don't think. Yeah.
Okay.
Graham, any last thoughts on Orton?
No, he's safe.
Okay.
I don't think anywhere else could promote him as strong as WWE would or could.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, let's talk.
I agree too. I'm just thinking about what he's thinking.
That's pretty impressive. Your insight into his mind.
Do you hear voices in your head?
I guess so.
Right. It's his. It's Cowboy Bob's voices in my head.
Oh boy. All right. Well, you obviously know something we don't. So let's talk pay-per-view. Chad, favorite WWE pay-per-view of the year so far?
I think Payback for me. I thought that main event was a little, I guess, kind of action movie stunt, too much for me and kind of drug out. But up to the main event, I thought that was a very enjoyable show. I really liked Jericho versus Punk. I really liked what they did in that match with Ziggler and Del Rio. And I thought the matches surrounding it were good too. So I think top to bottom, that was my favorite pay-per-view.
How about you, Graham?
I will go with the same. I was actually looking to see what happened at the Rumble. I forgot. And I liked the Rumble from top to bottom. The only thing I didn't like was the everyone knew Cena would win, and then he won. And I think there was a lot of opportunity in that Rumble match, and they were heading that direction to really put a spotlight on Ziggler. They did a pretty good job. He was kind of like the $1 Million Man in 1990, where he was in there the longest, and you thought maybe he could pull it off, and then he gets knocked out of the ring, and the crowd just craps all over it because they were getting really behind him. But what happened at Payback, from a match perspective, from a storytelling perspective, it's like someone new came in and just started writing the shows completely. Like whoever wrote Payback, whoever came up with that, whoever pieced that together, had just shown up in the company.
It's funny. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say it's just a stark contrast from what we have seen in previous months. It's kind of hit or miss. But I think ever since that show here several weeks ago, it's been pretty much hit. And, Raw was a little here and there, but it's just because we're coming off such strong momentum in the past several weeks.
I'm glad you mentioned Dolph, because I find it curious that none of the three of you mentioned him for the push on either guy. I mean, Scott, you said Jack Swagger, and we heard Cesaro and Barrett and these other guys, and how come none of you picked Ziggler as the guy you would push, either hot shot or long term? Was it just because you ranked the other guys higher, or do you see him as not someone that could fit that mold, Scott?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Last night, watching Raw, made me realize that there's been a lot of booking mistakes in the company so far, and I know we'll probably talk about shows or whatever in a little bit, but two guys that are like, you don't even know what to do with them right now is Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio. The reason I didn't pick Dolph or anything was because I don't know what to expect from him, and it's not his fault. He's a victim of circumstance, just like Del Rio. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what the fans don't know what to make of him. Just because now he got kicked in the head a bunch of times at Payback, and now that AJ and Big E don't come out with him, now we cheer him? I don't get it. And Del Rio was right. The promo he cut when he kind of officially turned heel a couple of SmackDowns ago is true. He was beating the hell out of me, so I did it back, and you're booing me.
Scott.
It's very weird.
Scott.
Yes, Graham?
It's Brett and Austin. They had been cheering Ziggler for months. Mm-hmm. And Del Rio was just kind of bland as a babyface, and so they just went with it.
Right, I agree.
No one's wrong here. Alberto is right.
That's what makes it great.
Yeah.
But it feels like it was one thing, come on, we've all seen it. It's one thing when a heel gets cheered because he's the better wrestler than the babyface. It's another thing that once he's the babyface, now it's not special to cheer him anymore. And that's what it's felt like the last couple weeks with Dolph. He's not getting the pops when he's run out to the ring and and pummeled Del Rio. He's not getting it. It's very weird. When we talk about booking in general, I'm sure we'll get to that topic in a bit. They've really screwed themselves up in a lot of ways. And people that have accused me of pandering on my recap, when we talk about Money in the Bank, perfect example of why my opinion is what it is. But Brett and Austin's a great comparison, Graham. Unfortunately, it's not as clear-cut organic as Brett and Austin was.
I would agree with that.
I feel like Del Rio's just there. There's a guy that may not stick around if he's still kind of milky in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, you have a weird perspective on guys that are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, he's the world champion. How is he in the middle of nowhere?
Well, now he's world champion as a heel. So? I can easily see him. He may lose at Money in the Bank. Because if you notice, all 7 guys in the SmackDown Money in the Bank are heels. All 7 guys in the Raw Money in the Bank are faces. I don't think that's by accident.
But you can set that up long term.
Yeah, I agree. But I just feel like that the two of them have been caught in this, like, this, I don't know the right adjective, but they're caught in this weird sense of apathy where after the Izod freak show Raw, when he cashed in Money in the Bank, it's been first of all, the concussion wrecked him. Not being on TV for 6 weeks was a disaster for Dolph. Because that's also where Del Rio got quickly very stale. Because he was on so much to cover for Dolph's absence that that the fans almost got sick of him.
Isn't that kind of what made him an effective heel, though, when he turned?
Yes. And we'll see how much longer he can stay as an effective heel when he's facing a much more over face than Dolph is now.
All right, Chad, what's your take on this? Be quiet.
I think Dolph can be a long-term piece of the puzzle, long-term player. I personally don't see him as having the upside as a Daniel Bryan. Whether you think Punk's established now or can still go a little bit further, I don't think he has the upside of a Punk. Don't see him have the upside of maybe even a Dean Ambrose in the future. But I'd certainly think he can be an integral part of that, maybe in sort of an Orton role, that type of level person for years to come. Del Rio, I do it is tough because he is the world champion, but I do kind of feel like once he does lose the belt to Dolph, which I think he will, at least by SummerSlam, I don't really know quite where you can go from there too and spin him off. So I do think he is kind of in a holding pattern a little bit. I don't see any really ready-made faces to sort of challenge him. I mean, we've seen him versus Sheamus a million times, seen him versus Orton a lot. So kind of tough.
Graham, anything to add on Dolph?
Well, I think going back to what Scott said, Brett and Austin, a lot of fans had a very deep emotional pull there for one guy or the other or both. And I think there's something to be said that while a lot of fans are behind Ziggler, I don't know if that same I don't know if it's realism or what, but I don't know if the emotional pull is still there like it was in '97. But I think that they have to be very careful with Ziggler. He can't just go from a frown to a smile overnight. What I think is a good example of how to do it right is, and it's a pretty good example, but a good comparison for Ziggler himself, Shawn Michaels. When Shawn turned babyface in '95, he had a lot of people were behind Shawn anyway, but at the same time, he went from we hate that guy top heel to the biggest babyface in the company within the span of about 2 months. And he was off TV for about 6 weeks of those. With Shawn, he had other guys to work with or to work off of, not necessarily wrestle against, but work off of. Diesel, Bam Bam, Sid, Tatanka, $1 Million Man. For Ziggler, it's I'm working against Del Rio. Is working against Del Rio going to do the most to get him over as a top babyface? Not if Del Rio isn't a top heel. So I think both guys are in a tough situation.
Do you think that has to do with just their booking philosophy in general lately? That it seems just no one is ever given enough wins to get over. I mean, outside the Shield, who've been booked perfectly, everyone else wins, loses, and that robs you of having that strong, that strong character.
To some degree, but then there are guys who can win, lose, and still have the same credibility to go out and be a world title contender. Because their personality and their character is such. Jericho is a great example of that.
Yeah, but Jericho, he's earned that credibility over years. I'm talking guys that are just coming up now Jericho's been built. He's been made. I'm talking these guys that come up within the last couple of years that lose, win, and then they beat each other. They trade wins back and forth, and then a guy like Cesaro or Sandow just keeps getting jobbed out to Sheamus every week, and we're supposed to take him serious. I mean, that's part of the reason with Swagger. They threw him out there, and he had never won anything.
The term job is I think thrown around a lot. When I hear he got jobbed out, I'm thinking, oh, they beat him in 30 seconds and it wasn't competitive. I think Sandow's street fight with Sheamus was super competitive, and they went like 15 minutes, and Sheamus won. But I'm talking about the 8 losses before in a row before that match. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have a great loss. I'm all for that. You don't have to win every match, but
right.
Sandow's got to get over on him at some point leading up to that. I mean, he never beat him.
He beat him in that handicap.
In a handicap. There's your answer.
But it wasn't. It was I think it was done in a way that Sheamus was made to look stupid instead of they just beat him down until he couldn't get back up.
And that makes it worse in my eyes.
Well, yeah. I think there's something to be said for that. When I think the philosophy here is if we're going to put the belt on this guy, let's job him out a bunch beforehand so he has some built-in challengers. But then they don't make the guys into challengers, and so the world champion just lost 50 matches in a row and hasn't gotten any of his back.
And that worked back in the 80s when a lot of those losses would be on a house show, or you do one maybe televised loss in there, and then you build off that one loss. I mean, now like you're saying, these guys lose 7 or 8 times in a row to a couple guys, and then they never sift the title shot. So what was the point?
Right. A good example, I think. Before Mania, Bryan beat Ziggler. I don't remember what show or whatever it was, but thinking that Ziggler's about to win the world title, you go, "Wow, that's a great world title match." Nothing. Mm-hmm. A wasted opportunity.
I think you say that about a lot. We said this before. WWE is a company that's we'll rip off what CM Punk said. Millionaires that should be billionaires, and they just leave a lot on the table. I think that's the best phrasing for it. Just a lot left on the table when you look at that company.
Well, I don't want to be saying all that and just sound like a negative Nancy that hates the company, because I think they do a lot of good.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I think we're just being honest. I mean, I think they do a lot of great stuff, but they could be even greater.
Sure.
Yeah, I think they definitely have like the talent right now to be in one of their like peak eras, if the characters and mainstream appeal was right there with it.
Well, they've got Money in the Bank and SummerSlam coming up, and they've been on a hot streak on TV. So they're building the audience, I think, right now to really come up with something good in the next few months.
I mean, they got the matches down. I mean, and I've said this every week. If the matches standalone have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Main example, obviously the 2 Raw matches that come to mind, obviously Punk Cena, and the match last night, Punk Del Rio was. Those guys have better chemistry than I think people remember, and then the Cesaro Kofi match. We'll get to more matches later. The problem with the TV and with their leaving things on the table is that, the matches are good, but everything in between, skits. Segueing to other things, whether it be, and the pimping of that goddamn app has been annoying. Thank God they've eased up on that. We know the app's there. Stop shoving it down our throat. Particularly on Raw. SmackDown is all right because it's in the can. But doing it live, it was 10 times worse. It's not as bad now. But it's the formatics that has been the biggest problem for WWE, not the matches. The roster's fine. But it's been the formatics in between the matches that's been the problem.
All right, let's switch off switch off topic again. We talk about missed opportunities, things left on the table. Let's talk about The Rock. His first sustained bit of action here in 10 years came this year. Worked pretty heavily between the Rumble and Mania, or heavily for him anyway. Do you think they missed out quite a bit? Was it on him? Was it on them? Did we just have too high of expectations? Were you disappointed? Chad, to sum up your views on The Rock's run this year so far.
Kind of conflicted. WrestleMania did great business. Didn't really have as many actually pay-per-view buys as I think they thought coming in, but still had over 1 million pay-per-view buys, which is nothing to sneeze at. But I do think The Rock's run overall was disappointing from an in-ring standpoint, really from a promo standpoint this year. Felt like kind of stuff that was rehashed. We didn't break any new ground. I mean, he put Cena over at WrestleMania, but that was a guy that, I mean, Cena doesn't really need much help putting over, so that was the only person that beat The Rock. And now here we are without him. So it almost feels like an afterthought that he was there for the first 3 months of the year. So I'm kind of pretty disappointed in his role, in his run overall.
Are you done with The Rock?
I'm pretty done with The Rock. I mean, I think just the buzz of him coming back to a wrestling fan, this is one of the 5 best, 5 most popular. He would be on that Mount Rushmore of WWE history. So the buzz of him coming back for the first time in 7 years or whatever really helped sustain him. And then he had that built-in dream match with Cena that they built towards the year. But now it just kind of feels like, okay, we've seen what you can do. You still kind of keep leaving for Hollywood, but I'm not blaming him. But from a wrestling fan standpoint, that's kind of what I see. And I think part of the crowd seeing that, it sort of feels like they're sort of turning on him where, if you can't hang around or actually have conditioning enough to work a 15-minute match without sucking wind, maybe we'd rather see CM Punk, see what he can do, or Daniel Bryan and get a better reaction.
If you were gone from now till February, would you welcome him back for Mania next year, or would you need more time than that off?
I'd welcome him back versus Brock, because I think that's 2 part-timer guys. They can tell their little story. It'll be a big-time match. Doesn't really, I guess Rock can win, whatever, and then both of them can kind of ride off into the sunset together.
Holding hands.
Yeah, holding hands. But that'd be, I think, the only storyline that I'd be, because I just don't think we're at the point now where, Punk to me looked really weak in his feud versus Rock. I think that did a little damage to Punk's overall momentum that he built up, and now Punk's going to have to recover from that. So I don't, if Rock's willing, if they have somebody, if Ziggler or Bryan or somebody catches fire between them and they want to put them versus The Rock in February for a shot at the championship match at WrestleMania and Rock's willing to put them over, I'm fine with that, because I still think Rock can rehab versus a match versus Brock at WrestleMania. It doesn't matter if he loses in February. But if he's not willing to do that, then I say just hold him off. And if he wants to do versus Brock, fine. But otherwise, no thank you.
Graham, what did you think of Rock's run? And how long would he have to be gone before you welcome him back?
Against the right opponent, I would welcome him back tomorrow. I think Rock coming back, the biggest impact there was to suck in the non-wrestling fan. For all the people that have fallen in love with him in recent years because he's a movie star, and like, oh, he's going to go back to wrestling again. We should watch this show. I think that's where the biggest impact came. And also from the fans that left WWE after the Attitude Era. I think for the folks that watch Raw and SmackDown week after week, in the long run, it didn't really make much of an impact for them. Because I think the consensus is there based on the crowd reaction anytime his name is mentioned, is he's a part-timer and he's not really into this. This isn't his game anymore. So I think him coming back was good for business. It was good to get non-hardcore fans talking about the product again. And I think he can work. There's lots of other guys out there that would benefit from working with The Rock. I think Punk benefited from working with The Rock. Win or lose, he had a program. He had a main event pay-per-view spot against The Rock for the WWE World Title. And it didn't matter if he lost the belt or kept the belt. That helped his career in the long run. And I think Rock is in a position, if he wants to come back, he can help lots of other people's careers, whether he gives them a 30-minute match and he wins, or they beat him in 10 minutes. He's kind of like a Hulk Hogan. Hogan can come back to help himself. Hogan can come back and help other people too. Just kind of depends on what you want to do.
What's your take on how this is something, Scott, I talked a lot about heading into Mania. Your take on how they should use these guys who come back. Do you feel like dream matches for the one payday at Mania are the way to go? Or would you rather see them programmed against other guys to help get them over, where you may not be getting that dream match draw, but say you want to put a Sando over. So you program with The Rock heading into Mania and you give him a big Mania showdown with The Rock. As opposed to saying Rock fighting Brock, which may be a great one-time dream match, pops a rating, but you're not really building towards anything.
Is that for me?
Yes.
I think you can do both. If I'm thinking Vince, if I'm thinking business, you want to do the dream match. But after WrestleMania, can you keep Rock around for 6 weeks? And you can do a short little program and put someone over and then go away for 6 months or a year. I think that might be the way to do it.
You agree with that, Chad?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you can, exactly what Graham says. I'll echo that. Yep.
All right, Scott. Since you are our weekly TV recapper, what's been the best WWE weekly show so far this year?
Consistency-wise, SmackDown. Every week, SmackDown's been good. There hasn't been an awesome SmackDown. There hasn't been an awful SmackDown. There's been some really great Raws, but there's been some really fucking horrendous Raws. So it has not been consistent. And 3 hours, it's very hard to come up with 3 good hours every week. 2 good hours, particularly 2 canned hours, is a little easier to work with.
Quick sidebar, can you guys all believe that we're still doing the 3-hour thing? Did you think it would last this long, Scott?
No, I thought it'd be over by WrestleMania.
How about you, Chad?
Yeah, I thought they would be done by now because, the ratings have actually sustained better than I thought.
Graham?
Guys, didn't we sit through like 2 or 3 years of bad Nitros that were 3 hours?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't see an end point.
I thought by WrestleMania it'd be done. But they've done an adequate job of being able to fill 3 hours. But there's been some 3-hour shows that have been real stinkers, and there have been some 3 hours, not counting the Izod one, because the night after WrestleMania is always a great Raw. Although you said it, JR, yourself, that that was more sizzle over steak. The crowd kind of saved that Raw from being a little bland. SmackDown every week has at least 2 really good matches and some consistent storytelling. Raw, on the other hand, trying to stretch it out so far, they've had some nights where it has been like watching grass grow. And then there's other nights like the last couple weeks where it's been pretty good. But if I had to pick and main event's been good, but there's some weeks main event's kind of bleh, and there's other weeks where you get a good match, but that's only an hour and it's kind of hard to judge it with the others. But I would say that the more consistent show week to week has been SmackDown.
I am going to go with the dark horse and pick NXT. I enjoy it.
You think that's a dark horse at this point? I feel like that might be the favorite.
Well, just because it's not readily available on television.
Yeah, true. It seems to get a lot of publicity.
It does. And I'll say this. I do agree on Scott's thoughts about Raw. I think it can be hit or miss. But because I live tweet Raw, it's always fun and entertaining for me, and I just make fun of it if it's bad, and I have a great time. But I think NXT has the best, what's the way to put it? You don't expect a whole lot, but you're always left wanting more. And so, I just came off moving into a new house. I didn't get to watch NXT for like 2 months. And then this past weekend, or about a week ago, I sat down and over the course of 2 days, I watched all 8 episodes I had been missing. And if I was to do that with Raw or SmackDown, if I had to watch 8 episodes of Raw and SmackDown that I missed, I would have to walk into traffic. But NXT is so good that I watch 1 episode, I'm just going to tear through them all. And I don't feel worn down at the end of it. It's just fun, old school, slow progression. Good vignettes, characters are well developed, and the main event match is good time.
Chad?
What do you think, Chad?
I actually think, well, I'll preface by saying that I don't watch NXT. I only watch the stuff that makes its way to YouTube and I know has a lot of hype. But I think Scott kind of hit the nail on the head that it's a consistency versus kind of a peak versus valley argument on SmackDown and Raw. I think main events took a step back this year. That was probably my favorite show last year. It's been better, I think, in the past couple of months. But the first 3 or 4 months, really, before WrestleMania were kind of rough for main event. I'm usually I can take the lower lows as long as they're higher highs, so I'd probably would go with Raw overall. But, I mean, I think all 3 shows have been pretty good. All 3 main WWE shows have been pretty good this year, but no blow-away winner.
All right, Graham, start with you on this one. Where do you think this roster, Chad touched on this earlier, but where do you think this roster lines up or stacks up with some of the periods where we've always gushed about the roster depth, like WCW 98, WWF 2000, WWF 2002, just all those times where we've always been like, wow, what a loaded roster. How did they ever fail? Do you think we're going to look back at these couple of years here, 2012, 2013, maybe 5 years from now, and wonder, wow, look at that roster at that day? Do you feel like we're at that point right now?
Well, I think with some nostalgia, you can look back at any year and go, holy crap, the Smoking Guns against the Blue Twins, that was an amazing match. No laughter, really? No laughter?
We thought that was an easy joke. We have a much harder scale here.
Okay.
We thought you meant it.
Of course I meant it.
That was a good match.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I think with some a few years pass by, and you'll look back on this time with probably some rose-colored glasses compared to how you see it right now. And I don't think that's unique to this year. I just think that's how people operate. You will, in time, overlook the bad things and remember fondly the WWE Payback that was awesome and off the charts.
Well, I'm not even talking about the quality. I'm just talking about the roster depth, the talent on the roster. Because, we went through years where, look at like 03 or even, 07, 08, when the roster is just completely depleted and thinned out. But it seems like we've actually bulked back up here over the last year or so. I was just wondering where you think the quality of wrestlers on the roster, the depth, stacks up to some of those greater years.
Oh, I think the quality is getting to be off the charts. I mean, look at the guys who are working Superstars. Look at the guys who are working Main Event. Those guys like Cesaro and the Usos and Justin Gabriel and the quickly recovering Tyson Kidd, who I would love to see them do something with. Those are like the bottom of the barrel guys who are so talented. And as you look up the roster, they just get better on the mic and better in the ring, or they just have a louder personality. So I think the WWE right now is pretty loaded. The wrestling on a weekly basis, you could probably compare to any other year, and it would be as good or better than.
So what is it? What is it that is stopping people? Is it nostalgia that's stopping people, or is it the storylines? Is it the booking? I mean, because like you said, the match quality is really top notch. I mean, you're getting what we always dreamed of,
Right. I don't necessarily watch wrestling for purely this reason, but I think if you were to look back in the Attitude Era, you want the big overarching storylines. You want the big, you can put 2 guys in the ring against each other, and they might have 4 or 5 different things going on with different guys in the company at the same time. So which lends itself to, tag matches and just you want as many things going on as possible without it becoming too hard to understand or remember or keep up with. I think that was a plus of the Attitude Era, is they had a lot going on, but I think that was also a negative, personally. I'm not going to argue with the ratings. People liked it. But I think you want the big storylines. You don't want to, all right, as an example, and this is low scale, but the Caitlyn Secret Admirer. If you could take that and apply it to, say, 4 or 5 other guys in the company, then you've got enough going on to hit as broad an audience appeal as possible, where people want to tune in every week and see if there's a new development with so-and-so, rather than turn on the television and, oh, it's Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio for the 15th time in the past month. That's not to say they're going to put on a bad match, but why should I watch it?
Scott.
Any of that make sense?
Oh, it makes great. It makes total sense.
I agree.
Yep. I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think? We sat here. Fuck, was it 2 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
Triple H came on screen and took over the company COO position from McMahon, and we sat here and gushed about what the future could bring and Triple H in charge. Do you think he's fulfilled a little bit of that promise so far? Not on screen. I'm talking backstage.
I don't hear. Well, for one thing, at least in terms of like news sites like Lords of Pain and of course WrestleChat.net, you don't hear as much pissing and moaning as you used to. I think a lot of people respected Triple H as a executive. I think it was whenever he put himself on TV is when the vitriol started. Knowing now that he doesn't put himself over for any reason anymore, there's no need to. I think people focus on the fact the guy's a student of the game, the student of the business. And I think people are starting to lose their faith in Vince. I mean, he's almost 70 at this point. You could see that even when he's doing skits on TV, he just doesn't look like he's all there. And I think they need the trust in Triple H for the future of the company. I think he's enhanced the tag division. Not totally yet, but he's going to. I think teams I think Triple H has been the one who's kind of helped push the Usos the last 6 weeks as a viable tag team. Are they going to win at Money in the Bank on the pre-show? Probably not. But that's all right. It's not a big deal. No one is a bigger fan of solid pay-per-view title defenses than you. So, wins and losses are irrelevant as long as you got a good match. I think focus has been on the titles again. I think the changing of the belt helped because people just fucking hated that belt. So changing it to a belt that's a little better, not great. There's still some people that shit on it, but it's much better than the spinner. I think that was a big deal. But I think you see little bits and pieces of his influence. But I don't think he'll totally get the reins until... I don't mean to sound morbid about it. I don't think he'll get the total reins until Vince is dead.
Chad, what do you think? Has he fulfilled that promise we had 2 years ago?
I will think he has done a lot for that, and I want to commend Triple H mainly for his developmental work. I mean, Sin Cara was his pet project, and that didn't pan out, but I think that was a risky kind of type innovative decision for him to sort of recruit Sin Cara Mystico from Mexico that we hadn't seen in a while, and what he's done in developmental, signing away, quite frankly, most of the best of the indie talent as far as Ring of Honor and the other indies was concerned, whether it be Hero, Casasono, and El Generico is a guy that I, not to sound like a mark, but a couple years ago, I met him without his mask, out of character, at WrestleMania weekend on WrestleMania 27, and I never would have dreamed that 2 years later he'd be in NXT without his mask in a character, kind of building up. So I think that's commendable to Triple H and what he's building, and it does feel like he's really building towards the future. So I appreciate what he's doing right now.
What do you think, Graham?
Well, I would echo those sentiments. Regarding Sin Cara, when that whole started, I was thinking to myself, wait, you're going to put a guy on television wearing a mask who can't speak English. How is this going to get over? Shockingly, it didn't really get over. But aside from that, the tag division, look at what happened. Bryan and Kane win the belts, and then all of a sudden, everyone comes out of the woodwork to try to take the belts off them, and we've got half a dozen tag teams. No, it's not like the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, and the Rockers, and those kind of guys, but still, half a dozen tag teams of really talented guys, and the tag belts all of a sudden mean something. I do like that we are getting vignettes introducing guys. I do like that when the guys show up, they're actually doing something, and they're not just put out there to be just another face amongst the crowd. I think there's a lot more focus. And when I say focus, I don't mean like, why do we have 30 backstage segments on Raw? I mean, just as the company, as what the company is trying to accomplish. I think there's a lot more focus on the younger talent. They are doing quite a bit to make sure that when Orton is gone and when Cena is gone, and when Triple H doesn't want to do his one match every year, and when Undertaker doesn't want to do his one match every year, that they are going to be surrounded by arguably even more talented group of in-ring performers. What will be interesting to see is when WWE takes that extra step and just outright buys Ring of Honor or outright buys another indie company and just, I don't know, funnels their new guys into NXT from there, or uses both as developmental. I don't know.
Do they even need to do that, though?
I don't know. Well, I mean, from this perspective, that video libraries, I think that alone could get them, could make up for whatever they put down to buy the company. I mean, that's pretty much how Ring of Honor lives anyways, through DVD sales.
All right, Chad, kick us off on this one. What do you think of the way they've used Brock Lesnar since his return a year ago? Did they botch it badly? How would you have done it if you gave a quick scenario? Or have you liked the way they've used him?
I mean, him with Triple H, it kind of is what it is. That's a long-term feud that they had planned out. They saw it to its dull completion with the WrestleMania match that I think most people thought was kind of a mess overall. And then I actually liked the Extreme Rules match a good bit, but, Brock won, so that helped him that he kind of definitively won that feud. And then now they're transitioning him into something versus Punk, obviously, so I like that direction. So I think overall, if I had to give it like a grade, I'd probably give it around a B. It's been serviceable. I don't think anything with Triple H was extraordinary or necessary. I kind of would have liked to seen him in some other directions, maybe a rematch with Cena based on how great their match was the first one, and I wouldn't have had Cena win back at Extreme Rules in 2012. But now it feels like he's really kind of going to be inserted into a big-time feud, and then we'll see where he goes off of that versus Punk heading into WrestleMania next year. So I like his future.
How about you, Graham? What's your thoughts on how they've used Brock and his future?
Well, I think I had no problems with him losing to Cena. I think, if anything, that was Vince reminding Brock who he works for if he's going to be wanting to come back to the company. I'm going to make sure your ego's in check. I'm going to make sure that you don't walk back in the door and think you own the place, because I'm going to make you lose to Cena right off the bat. But you can get in a few good shots and make him bleed all over the place too. I think the mistake that they had was pairing Brock, who is a monster, and we know what he's capable of, and we know what he's done, and they put him against a part-timer, who I think was lukewarm. I think they have a real good opportunity to rebound, because they're putting him now against one of the hottest guys in the company, who can really do no wrong in the eyes of many. That will make Brock work. That will make Brock look better, and I think more people will be interested in it. I think the stuff with Triple H was fine, but it went on too long. It was essentially a year-long feud, and Triple H isn't even a full-time wrestler. So I don't know. Some of it just kind of seems self-serving. But I think Brock and Punk will be fun, super fun, and I think a lot of people will be into it for various reasons, and I think it will be money.
All right, Scott, give us your thoughts on Brock, and then one more category before we take a break here.
I was 50-50 on on him losing to Cena. I thought it was all about two things. It was about Cena. Everyone, Vince pretty much telling Brock, this is the guy running the company, not you. I agree with you on that, Graham, definitely. But that kind of crap needs to stop. The whole storyline with, well, I was just saying, the whole storyline with Cena last year was he had a shitty year. And I think getting the crap kicked out of him by Brock would have more helped Cena down the stretch and then beating Rock at Mania than him beating him after just a month. If they wanted to do this, they should have booked Cena and Brock at SummerSlam. They should have let Cena get F5'd, kind of marinate for a few months, then have Cena beat him. Not in just a month. I think he kind of shot Brock's momentum a little bit. And beating Triple H at SummerSlam, I think, did him no favors. Having said that, I think the deal, the day-by-day thing has been kind of hindering him. But that's the deal he wants. I don't know if Rock at WrestleMania will do anything. I honestly don't. I mean, Rock could bring back the fact he didn't get his win back from 2002, but who right now that's a fan even cares? I don't know. I think it's been okay, but if they were going to have Cena beat Brock that first time, they should have done it maybe 3 or 4 months down the line and let the feud kind of build a little bit. But otherwise, it's been unoffensive.
Did you have something to add, Graham?
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think I understand that from a fan perspective, the thought of we're going to make you lose to remind you that we're the boss, it can be annoying. But I think Brock's history necessitated that.
True. I agree. I just thought maybe they could have waited a few months, that's all.
Well, I do agree that they shouldn't have just blown it off with one match.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a super hot match. That was one of the most entertaining matches of the year.
That was a great show.
And then
that match surprised us. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, quickly give us your match of the half year so far.
Well, definitely Punk and Cena from Raw. That one like the week after.
You like that better than Punk and Taker?
Yes. Yeah. Not by a lot. Pretty close, though. Punk and Taker was great. But Punk and Cena was pretty good. And I got to say, I got to give props to that Cesaro-Kofi match on main event. That was a hell of a match for the throwaway Wednesday show. And I also liked the one last night between Del Rio and Cena. I hate to say it, two of the three best. We've ripped the guy, and I've said he's been dreadfully dull and sleptwalked through that god-awful Ryback feud, but he's had 2 of the 3 best matches of the year. I hate to say it.
Another sleeper candidate, of course, is... Well, I'll say this. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. Chad, what's your match of the year?
My match of the year would be either Cena versus Punk, or I am going to go with an NXT match that I watched, William Regal versus Cassius Ohno. That's a great match from March in NXT.
And Graham?
There's been a lot of competition. I'm going to have to go with insert any match pitting Daniel Bryan against The Shield.
Yeah, they've all been pretty good.
Yeah, whether it be a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-3 or a singles.
Yeah, that Bryan Rollins match was the one I was thinking of, kind of a dark horse candidate.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I'd say that match on SmackDown, just quickly, JR, that match on SmackDown where they finally won, where the Shield finally lost, was incredible. I mean, the pop that Bryan and Kane and was it Orton?
Yes, when Bryan pinned him and he was celebrating at the end.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I'm surprised they put that on SmackDown instead of Raw.
I agree, Graham. But it was amazing. So I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. That's the one repeat that hasn't bored me. You were talking earlier about, oh my God, Cesaro, Sheamus, freaking 14 times. That, I agree with you. That's the one time that repetitiveness didn't irritate me, because every match was great.
All right, with that, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk briefly. We'll talk about TNA, Ring of Honor, and anything else we want to mention. And then we want to give a little bit of second half predictions for the WWE. We'll do that at the end. So why don't we take a quick break, and we'll come back and get to that.
Because...
Problems getting dealt with, never pop shit. Hit you with the drop kick. Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
What I'd like to have right now.
Chad, do you ever feel that the world revolves around WWF?
I think you mean WWE there, Barf.
Yeah, whatever, but what about David Crockett?
She likes it!
Well, what about Jimmy Valiant?
I'm gonna get y'all until I get you, Paul Jones. Woo.
The Four Horsemen.
We are a family, and we are the best.
The Omni, the Dangerous Alliance.
Please welcome the newest members of the Dangerous Alliance. I'm Anderson and Larry Zbyszko.
Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express.
The Fantastics are putting the U.S. Tag Team title on the line against the Midnight Express.
Main events with actual work rate in them.
Woo! 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 All right!
It's just not fair to Flair.
It's not fair for Flair.
If this is what you're looking for, please check out Where the Big Boys Play podcast, the only pure NWA and WCW supercard podcast out there.
While you were in Hollywood making movies, Thunder Lips, I was winning world titles.
So a guy from across the pond and a dude from the south, Where the Big Boys Play. It's a great podcast. Harv and Chad are awesome. Check them out. Also check out WrestleChat.net, indeed where it's at. Great message board, plenty of topics to browse, the Still Real to Us podcast, and much, much more. Also, our message board, which is awesome, bigelow34.proboards.com. It's where PTB really began. Written reviews and a boatload of them. In PTB Nation, we have you to thank for that. Plus the Territory Wars, a whole lot more. If you want a one-touch spot for our show, you can head there. Also head to Stitcher.com and the Stitcher app for all phones and tablets, and more details on that. Also, our good friend Graham Cawthon, the history of WWE.com, the best research site you will ever find. Also, another sponsor to the show, the Wrestling Forum, TWFnews.com. They're a wrestling forum, a blog site, and much, much more. The guys at TWF creating a wrestling media nation, many blogs, podcasts, and vodcasts. Yours could be included. They're the official forum of WrestleChat.net and the place to be. We've joined up as well. So check them out, find out what they're about at TWFnews.com. Also, you can check out our show at GetThePointRadio.com. My good friend Mike. It's a great online radio station. If you're not in the mood for wrestling, but you want to listen to music, pop it on. He plays music all day long. But you can also check his archive on iTunes, and all of our shows are there as well. Big site.
Hey, this is Ed Banger Thrasher, and you're listening to what the fuck is it? The Place to Be podcast, so you better not miss it, because I'm on it.
All right, Nation, we are back. We are reviewing the first half of 2013 in the world of wrestling. We got Graham Cawthon in the house, Chad Campbell, and, of course, Scott and myself. And, yeah.
Another episode where sports history has been made.
You mean you're talking about Alberto Gonzalez's two-run double to put the Yankees ahead 3-1 over Minnesota?
Yes! Okay, let's move on. No. Back-to-back years for Homer Bailey. Another no-hitter tonight. He no-hit the Giants 3-0. He threw the last no-hitter in 2012, and he throws another one this year. So congrats to Homer Bailey of the Reds. 3-0.
I need to analyze that Giant lineup. Did they have everyone playing tonight?
Let's see. Blanco, Scudero.
Was that Clay Buchholz special mowing down the AA Orioles? And
No. Your boy Panda was in the lineup, and Posey, Scudero, Pence. No, they had all the studs in. And he beat Lincecum, who he sucks anyway. But
this has to be the first time that a pitcher's thrown two consecutive no-hitters in the league, right? Like no one in between? That was only 3 career with multiple, so.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because a lot of them, they're at least a couple years apart. Nolan Ryan never did it. Nolan Ryan's were at least like 3 years apart. So, yeah, this might be it. Big deal for a guy who no one really thinks about. Big moment tonight. Homer Bailey.
Okay. All right, so we talked about WWE in the first half, so now we're going to do a little TNA, a little Ring of Honor, and then we will do some predictions for WWE for the second half of the year. So, Scott, since you've been watching TNA, who is your TNA wrestler of the half year?
There's been a few, because one thing TNA does is they really do the carousel of guys. Since January, consistent guy, the guy that's been wrestling nonstop, has been Bully Ray. I got to give him the nod. The the first episode of Impact I watched in January was the infamous wedding to Brooke, when Taz turned heel and joined Aces and Eights, and it's been, and then of course at Lockdown, Bully Ray was revealed as the president of Aces and Eights, and he used Brooke to get his position, but he's pretty much been the most consistent because TNA really focuses on giving everyone a fair shake, so they're not on every week. I got to be honest, it's only been in the last 3 weeks that I've actually seen Samoa Joe wrestle back-to-back weeks for the first time in months. They're very particular about giving guys nights off and letting other guys shine. So I'd have to say Bully Ray, just because he's been on more than anybody.
Okay. And now, Chad and Graham, I don't know your familiar. I know, Chad, you don't watch too much TNA. Graham, I'm not sure where you stand right now, but just chime in as we go along. Graham, do you have a pick for this one?
I've watched consistently all year, and I would agree with Bully Ray, not simply because he's on TV every week, but because he has had to run the gamut from arguably the top babyface to definitely the top heel.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And he's carrying the company as the champion. He has, because he is so over and so good at what he does, then he makes other guys like Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff and Ken Anderson relevant by being with him. He makes the crowd, not necessarily that the guy can't get heat by himself because he's a legend, but that he gets the crowd even more behind guys like Sting to try to take the belt off him. He makes Brooke a sympathetic character. He makes Hulk more of a sympathetic character. The guy can do anything. I have not been really keeping up with the backstage stuff and the newsletters and all that kind of stuff this year. So when he turned, that was a legit holy crap from me, because I thought really he was the company's top babyface, whether he was promoted or such or not. He was kind of like in WWE. Daniel Bryan is the guy getting the biggest pops every week. He was the guy getting the biggest pops every week, and then he turns out to be the devil incarnate. And I thought, this is amazing. So I've been watching every week this year, and I do agree that they've got a lot of good guys doing a lot of good things, but Bully is far and away the top guy.
Do you think it's time for Aces and Eights to end, or do you think they've kind of regained some of the steam that they lost earlier in the year? Where do you see the end game for this feud, Graham?
I don't. I think it's probably going to come at Bound for Glory in October. I would imagine that it will be some kind of like a Starrcade '97, except executed well. Where Bully ends up losing the belt, and all the guys that he has screwed over the past year, like Sting and Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, et cetera, will have a hand in that. And I think that could be the end.
Who wins the belt?
Well, if we're going off of the Bound for Glory series, and if we're going off of a little history in the past year, and it's also a pretty fair comparison with Starrcade '97, AJ Styles, who is somewhat positioned as the 1997 Sting, where he doesn't really have a side. But I could see a little character development from him over the next several months to lead to him and Bully for the title.
What about you, Chad? I know you don't follow closely, but who would your pick be to be the one that knocks off Bully Ray and Aces and Eights?
I think AJ's a good choice for that, kind of as the mainstay of TNA. One thing that I did like about TNA recently is how people were pissed that Brooke Hogan got legit engaged. So there was some outcry backstage that now that angle was run between her and between Bully and Hulk. But I would agree that of what I've seen, I'd put Bully as the wrestler of the year so far for that promotion. He's done a great job.
Scott, do you think Aces and Eights ends at Bound for Glory, and is AJ your pick as well?
AJ is my pick. I got to tell you, though, quickly, Bound for Glory series, I love the way it's been built. I think the most important, the guy that's going to gain the most out of it, even if he doesn't win the points, is Magnus.
Yep.
I like his look. He's young. He's hungry. I think I think he'll really help the roster. I think he's due to be a main eventer. there's a big rumor floating around. It came up on Lords of Pain today that Sting is going to leave and go to WWE. I don't know about that because right now he's rebooting the Main Event Mafia, so I don't know how far ahead WWE's. That's why Sting was in one of those champions vignettes last night. They're trying to butter him up because they both have a mutual interest again. I don't know how true that is, but I think he's been fine too. But Magnus is the guy to pay attention to this summer in the Bound for Glory series. But I agree with you, Graham. I think this is like Starrcade. Everybody knows it's pretty much been positioned like the NWO, and AJ is the Sting, and Bully is the Hogan. I don't know if Aces and Eights will end at Bound for Glory, but I think Bully Ray loses the belt at Bound for Glory.
Scott, were you watching pretty regularly last year?
No, I didn't start watching till late December, early January.
Well, last year when the series started, Bobby Roode was champion, and James Storm had just come back.
Yep.
And right off the bat, James Storm gets 20 points, and he's in the lead. And you're thinking the whole time where you're going to get this lockdown rematch for the world title at Bound for Glory, and they're going to blow it off, and Storm's going to get the belt. They obviously didn't go that route.
Nope.
And that was kind of like what we're saying right now. AJ is the logical choice. Well, Storm was the logical choice. So we could end up with freaking, I don't know, who's like the crappiest guy in the series.
Well, the only other dark horse you could think of would be Anderson, because that would be imploding Aces and Eights from within. Well, last year I think Storm got screwed because they wanted to stroke Jeff Hardy's ego, which is why he ended up winning the series, right? Yeah, Jeff won the series last year,
right? And
I think they were trying to stroke him to make him the big stud in the face side. But I agree. I mean, James Storm's like my favorite guy in the company, and I would love to have seen him. I paid attention a little bit on the sites. I didn't watch Impact, but I kind of was rooting for him too. But AJ, you can't blow this. This is ready-made. Last year, Jeff kind of muddied the waters a little bit. This year, it's clear cut. AJ should win the title. I think this Main Event Mafia thing is going to be more leaning into the whole breaking up Aces and Eights. But the dark horse of the Bound for Glory series, in my opinion, is Anderson, because that would implode it from within. But we'll see what happens. I think this year AJ is much more clear cut to take it than Storm should have been clear cut last year.
Has there ever been a better year in wrestling for AJs than this year, 2013?
Last year was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess last year was pretty good. Where do you see them doing with Hogan, Graham? Is he going to wrestle a match with Bully Ray? Does he get back in the ring at some point here?
Well, I think it can't be on Bound for Glory, but it would be a great build for it. It would be if, and I have not paid attention. I know they threw their whole pay-per-view schedule up in the air, but if there is a pay-per-view between now and Bound for Glory, it might be a smart move to put Bully and Hulk on pay-per-view, make it non-title, so you can't complain that Hogan's going to get the belt, and have Bully kick his butt and send him out on a stretcher or something, just to put more heat on him going into Bound for Glory. Now that I said that, there's no chance it'll ever happen.
Well, let me serve you a few options. You tell me what you think would work best. You build it as a major TV match and do it before the pay-per-view. You do it on Bound for Glory as a deal where Bully has to wrestle two matches. He's forced into fighting Hogan and then defending the title. Bully loses the title before Bound for Glory and fights Hogan on the undercard and someone else is champion. Or they wait till the next pay-per-view in January and build that match out till then, Bully and Hogan.
I like it as a TV main event before Bound for Glory with a month's build.
So it'd have to start soon. Well, not too soon. They have
time. Bound for Glory is in October.
Yeah, they got plenty of time.
Yeah, the next big match, the next big event is the Destination X Impact, which is the 18th, and that's when Austin Aries is cashing in the X Division title.
That was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah.
Wasn't that awesome? What a surprise! That was one of the best endings of an Impact this year. And that was a taped Impact.
And
that wasn't even a live one.
I don't do spoilers. I just watch the stuff and I don't know what's going to happen next. And I was thoroughly entertained.
No, I agree. I don't read spoilers either. It kills me writing the show. But I'm surprised. Like I didn't hear anything from anybody, or that was great. For those that didn't watch it, earlier in the show last week, Suicide won the X Division title in a 3-way rematch with Kenny King and Sabin. But Hogan comes out with the real Suicide,
T.J. Perkins.
T.J. Perkins, who looks like he got the crap kicked out of him, and the Suicide in the ring and the mask and the suit run off into the crowd. Well, the whole show, Bully Ray is running around wondering who's Suicide, because everyone thinks it's him. I actually wrote in my review I thought it was an Aces and Eights screw job, but apparently they didn't know either. And in the end, at the end of the night, he pulls off his mask, and it's Austin Aries, who wants his title back, so he took the X Division belt to cash it in, because that's what you can do, I guess, in the summertime during Bound for Glory or something.
Yeah, well, you can do it for Destination X. You can.
Okay, so yeah,
are the champion, you can essentially vacate the belt to go after the world title.
Okay, so that's what it is. So on July 18th, which Destination X is now a obviously Impact show, Aries and Bully Ray will wrestle for the title. So if they did JR a Hogan match on TV, it would have to be sometime between the end of July and the middle of October if they were going to do a build. I think they're going to wrestle at Genesis in January.
What would you do, Chad, of those options?
I think I would build it to Genesis. I mean, that'd be my choice. And that's if Hogan can. I mean, he's obviously not going to do much, but if he can go, I mean, I don't even know if I would do it in there. The risk may be greater than whatever reward 10,000 buys or how many more they get. But
just make it a street fight so you can use all the smoke and mirrors you want.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to be taking any bumps and stuff, so it'll probably be a brawl around the building match anyway. But I'd probably do it at Genesis.
All right, Scott, I'll kind of turn to you here because I just don't follow as closely. But how's the commentary been? Has it picked up since earlier in the year when you were kind of down on it? Todd Kennelly's gone. What's your thoughts? Has Taz gotten any better than the train wreck that he was?
No. In my opinion, Taz has checked out. He was good when I didn't like him turning heel as the announcer of Aces and Eights. I thought it was a colossal waste. And he doesn't really do it. He just kind of cheerleads, and then other matches he forgets and becomes a joke. And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Tenay kind of saves the commentary. He's a lot better than I remember him being. I know he never pronounced it, probably because he never said his name much. Todd Kennelly or Kennelly, I don't know. He sounded like a guy who had his lines fed, like knew nothing about wrestling when he got the job and had his lines fed. But apparently he was working at some promotion in California, which is where he is back now. He just sounded like a guy who was reading. I hate to say it was a very, very poor man's Mike Adamle. That's how bad it was. At least Mike Adamle had some charisma to him. This guy did.
Where did he rank on the Caleb Seltzer ladder?
Caleb is head and shoulders better.
Oh God.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And there's rumors that Taz might be leaving now too and wants to go back to WWE. So who the hell knows?
I wonder what the hell would he do in WWE? I mean,
I don't know.
The booth is full, so I don't know where he's going.
I agree, but apparently his deal's up. I don't know if you've read that, Graham, but
the only thing I think of is if they just pull JBL off SmackDown, leave him on Raw, and just put Taz back on SmackDown. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or what do you guys think?
You think maybe he goes to NXT and becomes a trainer?
Yeah. Do you guys think this is a spot for Taz in WWE, Chad?
NXT trainer would be, I think, the only optimum area. I mean, the commentary is full. Even in NXT, you have somebody like Regal on commentary, and he's great. So I don't think Taz is better than Regal or JBL, and Lawler's such an establishment. I don't think they're going to get rid of him anytime soon.
How about you, Graham?
Taz and Michael Cole can do Superstars, and it can be like SmackDown in 2002. And Taz can yell, "It's a street brawl!"
What, Joe? Here we go!
It's off the chain!
We've seen this guy before.
It's so weird watching Taz do commentary now, and then maybe watch him behind the mic and say 1995, where he's just this badass MMA dude, and now he's just like a snarky caricature.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he is.
Yeah, he's just...
he cashed in his chips in like early 06 to me was the peak of Taz. I feel like 02 he was solid. 03, 04, 05 I thought he was really good. And when they broke up him and Cole and they started mixing things up and he went to ECW, I didn't like him and Joey that much. And him and JR were okay, but I thought with him and Cole during those peak years of 03 and 04 and 05 they were really on point.
I prefer him getting bashed in the head with a candy jar to whatever he does now.
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. It's kind of sad when Mike Tenay saves things. When you're saying that, you're deep shit.
All right, Graham, give us your TNA match of the year so far.
I haven't seen it. They've had a lot of good matches, but I only watched the TV stuff. I have not ordered any of the pay-per-views. So I don't think it'd be fair for me to throw any out, but I know they've been on the pay-per-views. I know that the good matches are out there. So I can't really answer that because I have not put down the $40.
Scott, you feel the same way?
There have been a couple that have come close. Like Graham, I have not seen either pay-per-view. But from what I've read, the matches on the pay-per-views have been good, but nothing earth-shattering. There have been some good tags. Early on, when I started watching back in January, Daniels and Hardy had a match for the world title that was pretty good. Very good, actually. There have been a lot of good tags between Bad Influence, Rude Naries, who were fucking incredible, and Chavo and Hernandez. I love Hernandez. I can't stand Chavo, but they've had good matches. Bully Ray and Jeff had a Full Metal Mayhem match, which is ladders, and it's their way of saying pretty much a ladder match, TLC pretty much. And that was pretty good. But I agree with Graham. The cornerstone match of 2013 hasn't happened yet.
All right, last TNA question. I'll start with Chad on this one. And I want you guys to think outside the box a little bit, not the obvious. If there's one guy around the world, whatever, WWE, Ring of Honor, Japan, that you think could go to TNA and turn things around and get you excited, who would it be? And like I said, stay away from the obvious, Cena or what, who would you think is a guy they could take and kind of give that chance to? Maybe they didn't have a chance, or a guy that's they maxed out his chances. Like we said with Orton before, something along those lines that could go to TNA and kind of help them get to that next level and then help him turn his career around.
We're excluding CM Punk.
Yeah, let's not do Punk and Cena. Let's,
Okay.
Yeah. Rock or anything like that.
Yeah. Steve Austin would be my choice now. I'd probably go with Dolph Ziggler, I think, of that grouping. I think I can see him getting kind of lost in the shuffle on the WWE side like we discussed earlier. I just think there's a lot of people. There'll be a lot of moving pieces there. And I do think if he went to TNA, first off, I think his style of wrestling would match up wonderfully with like him and AJ. I think right off the bat could really tear it up, and that'd be a great match. And I think he could really be showcased and be kind of a signature piece that they could build around, and he wouldn't have a threat of maybe losing a spot. So that'd be the one guy I'd be really excited to see come in.
What do you think, Graham?
Well, you guys heard a few months back about Dixie Carter saying she'd be open to some talent swapping between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly thereafter, Paul Heyman said, "Of course she would. No one watches TNA."
Yes.
You kind of in the way of saying it would only benefit TNA.
Right.
I think there are lots of guys in WWE who are stale as crap and would certainly benefit from getting a change of scenery. And one of them is one that we mentioned before, and that's Orton. I think it would benefit, and I'm not saying Orton should go to TNA and just leave WWE, but hypothetically, you take Orton, you put him in the TNA atmosphere with that group of guys. I am more interested in Orton. I am more interested in that company. And there are probably 20 or 30 really good matches that could be one-offs on television or programs for 6 months or a year that I would watch for. And let's say he's only there for a year and he goes back to WWE. Well, he had a little bit of time off, and I'm more interested in what he can do now.
All right, so that'll put a bow on TNA. Let's quickly look at Ring of Honor, and then we'll get to WWE back again for the second half. Chad, what do you think's been the up and downs of Ring of Honor? Do you think they're better off than they were 6 months ago, quality-wise? Do you think they've taken steps back? Just what's your overall view?
Honestly, I think they've taken steps back. I think right now it's kind of murky water for Ring of Honor, especially with how this Briscoe thing turns out. And I don't want to ruin anything for you with the tapings, but what comes up on the television the next few weeks, I thought was as you'll see, I think it's kind of an interesting but sort of strange choice with what they do. And I don't really know what that sets up either. They are bringing in some new talent, but I just think right now we've seen these guys that they have in there, the main core, wrestle each other tons and tons of times. I mean, I can't even think of any first-time matchups or any sort of indie dream matchups right offhand that they could build towards to as you go towards Final Battle. I do think somebody like Elgin needs to win the title, and I think he's probably in my opinion, the freshest person on their roster. But I mean, again, he's faced Davey, he's faced a lot of the challengers that he could go up against. So I do think they need a shot in the arm somewhere. And the Scum angle's really lost a lot of steam since 6 months ago. So I think they are kind of in a holding pattern right now and looking for somewhere to go.
Graham, do you have any thoughts on Ring of Honor? Do you follow?
I did last year.
Okay.
I think it's difficult for me because I do not get their television. If I'm going to watch the television, it's going to be on my laptop, which is kind of an inconvenience to begin with. And I've fallen off that partially because of some of the booking and who won and who lost and that kind of thing, but also because of their star power. I think some of the guys that they really got behind, like Davey Richards and Kevin Steen, and even to some degree Jay Lethal, which I thought were all going to be kind of just part of the main event mix. Now Richards is back with Eddie Edwards in the tag team, and Lethal is, I haven't been watching week after week, but just from looking at what's going on, he doesn't really appear to be a threat for the world title like I was buying into him as being. And so it kind of turned me off a little bit. I think it's very important for Ring of Honor to sustain its star power. And they are an indie, and their star power only goes so high. But when you have guys like the Briscoes who are mainstays, and really the Briscoes can do anything on TV and they're over. If their situation is up in the air, that's going to be a big blow for Ring of Honor. Using Jay Lethal in a lesser role than what I bought into him as being, that's kind of pushed me away. Using Davey Richards in almost an opening tag match kind of way, that has turned me away. So, I like Elgin. I like some of the younger guys. I like Adam Cole. But it's not enough for me to go that extra step and watch the television on my laptop.
I think it's interesting. We'd sit here and talk about how they've, Chad mentioned, the guys all face each other and they're kind of stale. And, of all the promotions out there, they have the least amount of TV and the least amount of pay-per-views. Well, until TNA switched models, but yet they feel the most stale in a way, which is interesting to me. They only have 1 hour a week of TV, and at the most we get 3 matches a week, and somehow they've all fought each other and all kind of feel bland, which is just weird. I feel like I'm with you, Chad, on the Scum thing, and I feel like they aborted Steen as the leader and champion too quickly. Like, I was shocked. And maybe I was the only one who was shocked when he lost to Briscoe, and others have since told me, it made perfect sense. But heading into that match, I really didn't think Briscoe had much of a chance. I thought he was just an off challenger, and that was it. I thought they were building to something more with Steen, and I thought they had money there still that they aborted early. And it kind of derailed Steen. And he's trying to work his way back up now as the face, and I still think maybe they're headed towards Elgin winning the title and going heel or something like that. But I think Scum needs more star power. I said it last night with Kevin. And I think besides Hardy, they need another big name. Because right now it's Hardy, and as much as I love Jimmy Jacobs, it's Hardy and a bunch of low-level guys. And until they make Jacobs more of a threat, more than just a guy that, can put on a great match but never really wins much. I thought he should have won the TV title from Taven. I thought he was the star of that match. I don't know why they didn't just do it and try and elevate Jacobs a little bit. To me, he's got more money written on him than Taven does. Just some curious booking decisions. And while I won't say they're worse than they were in January, I think they made a huge parabola. Is that the right term that goes up and back down? Parabola. I thought they started, kind of in January, and I thought they got really, really good heading into the New York card in April rather. And coming off of that, they were still kind of strong. But since, I feel like they've gone back down the other side of the hill. I feel like they really peaked heading into Super Card of Honor. And I thought the product was hot at that point. So I can't say it's been like a straight run down or a straight, just downward trend. I think it's been a little bit more of a hill and then back down. I do like the focus on Carino, though. I think that's been huge, having Carino be kind of the heel mouthpiece and stepping into the booth. I thought he's really helped the promotion. But go ahead, Graham.
Is this ECW 2000?
Meaning?
Are they on their way out?
No, I don't think so, because I think they still have enough of a fan base, and I still, the difference with ECW was it wasn't their creative, it wasn't their product, it was their financials, and they don't have the network backing that Ring of Honor has. They have a major syndicate network that's pretty much bought in and pretty much runs the company. I mean, they're what's behind, and when you'll get a chance, Graham, listen to Kevin. He talks a lot about this on last night's show. They're behind a lot of this move, the switching to not doing live pay-per-views anymore and to kind of altering the TV schedules. And I think Sinclair is in bed with Ring of Honor. Probably, I don't want to say the long haul, but definitely the midterm haul. So I don't think it's like ECW where a Ring of Honor's on an island at the mercy of a TV. Because I think even if they lost TV, I think they could still sustain, maybe not running as many shows, but still sustain via DVD and other options. So no, I don't think they're on their way out.
What could their talent be?
I think they'll always find talent somewhere.
Could the over talent be?
No, because you would have thought that years ago with Punk and Joe and all those guys leaving, and they keep finding ways to replenish it. I think maybe I'm just buying the KK Kool-Aid, but I think he's been right so far. But it seems like any time everyone jumps on the bandwagon of, so-and-so's leaving, they go to WWE. It hasn't happened. Like, we heard that with Mike Bennett. He's still on Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. We heard that with Adam Cole, still in Ring of Honor. We hear that with the Briscoe brothers, from what we're told, still in Ring of Honor. So, I don't know. We haven't really seen anyone leave lately. Any major names.
Yeah, last person was Generico.
Yeah, I mean, and he had his run.
Yep. But I do think I don't necessarily... I do think they can find talent, but one thing I think they've sort of faltered on is building up new talent. Really, since Steen. I mean, Steen was in the company for a long time before he was given a singles chance, and I guess Steen and Elgin are probably your two biggest hotshots. I mean, now Adam Cole, he's been in the company for over 2 years on almost every show, and he's just now seems like he can be positioned in a main event type feud match. So that's a problem they have. I mean, how many times does Caprice Coleman and Cedric Alexander have to be in sort of an underneath type match, get a showcase win?
I love them.
I love them too. That's what I'm saying. I mean, how many times do they have to get kind of a showcase type match only to be in a tag match like they were at Best in the World, only to lose, and now it feels like they're right back where they started.
I feel like you don't. I feel like we go weeks without hearing from guys. Like, I feel like I haven't seen Cole in forever. They have a weird cycling system, whereas, it keeps some guys fresh, but then some guys are just gone. Like, I haven't seen Elgin wrestle, I feel like, in forever.
Yeah.
And when they do, sometimes it's one of those, like, throwaway matches that they just put on there because they have a guy in town and they wanted to have the match, like the Carl Anderson stuff and whatnot. But I think we need more consistent storylines throughout the card at Ring of Honor. I think that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I feel like there's just a couple storylines here and there, and the rest. I think they assume they can just force feed great matches, which they can, and that the fans will eat it up. But to me, if there's not that sustained storytelling, I find myself, I've reviewed every episode since January. And, there's been a couple times over the weeks where I've been like, it hasn't, to me, I haven't looked forward to it as much as I did earlier in the year. And I think it's because I don't have that episodic feel, and the Briscoe title reign hasn't really captured me. Maybe because I haven't been a diehard Ring of Honor fan, so maybe their story doesn't, maybe their story doesn't just affect me as it does other diehard Ring of Honor fans.
Well, they faced each other so much. I've seen them face each other in NWA Wildside and Combat Zone Wrestling and Ring of Honor multiple times. It's happened. If you're I think some hardcore Ring of Honor fans, which I've been a fan of Ring of Honor since show 1, I've seen it. Now it's for the belt, but, it's something I've seen before.
All right, so why don't we wrap up Ring of Honor there? Because I want to take a little bit to talk about the second half, what we can expect with WWE in 2013. Let's go round table, but not everyone talk about everything. So what we'll do is I'll start with Graham. Graham, I'm going to give you a name. Tell me just in a couple sentences where you see this guy headed. And Chad, I'll give you a new guy. Scott, I'll give you a new guy, and we'll go in a circle. So, Graham, tell me what you foresee for John Cena second half 2013.
I would not mind, and he doesn't have to lose the belt. And honestly, maybe I would prefer that he doesn't lose the belt. I would not mind him working with Daniel Bryan. Everyone keeps saying that that's going to be SummerSlam, that's going to be SummerSlam. They haven't gotten there yet. There's been no build to that yet. And honestly, if you're going to put the belt on Bryan, I would prefer it be at WrestleMania, where it means a whole lot more than at SummerSlam. It's against Cena, so yeah, it would mean something. But I would like to see them have at least a TV program.
All right, Chad. Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes.
Oh, come on. I will say, honestly, I see them as being featured superstars and main event wrestlers. I think that's a shame. I think Cody especially. I've been on board with Sandow. I liked Cody a lot a couple of years ago, but then I thought he kind of petered out a little bit. But now he's really kind of been rehabilitated in-ring wise and been very good as a solid hand the past month or so. But I don't see them pushing them very much to any sort of high level.
All right, let's alter this just a little bit. Tell me if you think, as we move forward, will they be higher elevated than they are right now, lower, or status quo? So going forward, let's use that as a barometer. So Scott, Ryback.
Lower. I think the Cena feud ruined him, and this Jericho, unless he completely cripples Jericho at Money in the Bank, I think his character is in deep shit right now. That feud did him no favors. Unless this rumor happens that there's, instead of Bryan and Cena at SummerSlam, there might be a three-way between Ryback, Cena, and Mark Henry. Yeah.
That was me.
He's in a lot of trouble. He gets no response from the crowd. They're not even boos. And then he tapped out last night. I didn't like that. I thought that was booked poorly. He's in a lot of trouble. So I say trending downward.
Graham, the Shield.
Ooh. Higher. And I think they could lose the belts in one way or another fashion, but I think they will be working with higher talent, whether it be singles or tag matches.
All right, Chad. Here, I'll throw you a bone. Big E, Langston, and AJ.
Big E, Langston, and AJ, I think they'll certainly be separate from Ziggler. I do see them kind of individually being featured higher. I see AJ especially. She's kind of revitalized the Divas division a good bit with her angle versus Caitlyn. And I think Big E's been a very protected character and a good character so far. So I'd like to see him kind of mix it up. Maybe somebody, a good extended feud, him versus Sheamus, I think would help. So that's what I'd like to see in sort of the upper mid card, have a couple of feature SmackDown matches, something like that I think would be fun.
All right, Scott. Christian.
Christian will be about middle of the road. I think he's in the same kind of path as you think Orton might be. I don't think he has a title run in his future, but I don't think he'll be, jobbing on main event or anything. I think he'll pretty much just be there to put on good matches and get his wins here and there, but put guys over elsewhere. I have a feeling we're due for a long U.S. title feud between him and Ambrose, which I think will lead to some very good matches. But in the end, Ambrose will win that feud. So I think he'll be middle of the road. He'll be good to watch. He'll be fun to watch. But if anyone expects world title, reigns, don't hold your breath.
All right, Graham. Curtis Axel.
Higher. I think what we've seen in the past month is, I think what a lot of people have been wanting to see out of him for a good long while, myself included. I'm glad the company is finally getting behind him and actually giving him Paul Heyman to work with as well. He will only get better.
All right, Chad. Hunico. No, I'm kidding. Fandango.
Fandango I see as lower. I didn't think he looked very good last night. I know he's kind of making his way back in after the concussion thing, but I don't know. He looked a little weary, and today I read that I guess it came out, or I wasn't aware of it before, but he has kind of a concussion history. And doesn't look like his theme song, kind of that lightning in the bottle type thing that we saw in early April. I don't think that's really caught fire and is petered out, so I see him as lower.
Scott, Miz.
Oh, lower. Unless he turns heel again. He is unwatchable right now. His commentary is bad. His matches are bad. The whole enveloping Flair's figure four is ludicrous. Another guy who turning face was just a bad idea. He has usurped Sheamus for me as the second most annoying guy in this company. So he's just not getting any better. Now he's suddenly putting guys over. I don't see him beating Curtis Axel at let's hope he doesn't beat Curtis Axel at Money in the Bank. He's just going to float around. I would say even slightly lower. Because I think turning face has ruined him.
All right, one last trip through. Graham, Mark Henry.
It's kind of hard to go up from facing Cena. Regardless of the outcome, I'm going either status quo or lower, just because it's the champ and it's Cena right off the bat.
All right, Chad, your last one, Brock Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar, I think, is definitely going to be higher from what we've seen in the Triple H feud. I think his feud versus Punk will be definitely a marquee match at SummerSlam. I don't know how long they'll keep that developed after SummerSlam, but I see that being a very hot feud for WWE in the summer, and then he can transition to whatever he's doing at WrestleMania, which I think also will be hopefully his feud with Triple H, it had some good moments, but hopefully whatever he's doing at this year's WrestleMania will have overall more cohesiveness and more consistency than last year versus Triple H.
All right, Scott, last one to wrap it up. Wade Barrett.
Oh, definitely upward. I think he's going to win Money in the Bank. And I think I think Dolph, not to tip my hand, I'll elaborate on this when we get down to close to SummerSlam. I think Dolph wins the title from Del Rio, and Barrett cashes in. That's why I think there's 7 heels in the SmackDown Money in the Bank. So definitely trending up. I think this is Barrett's time.
All right. Give me, just quickly, Graham, we'll start with you. One storyline you would want to see happen in the second half. Reasonable.
I'm gonna be a broken record. I want to see Daniel Bryan in a position going into the Royal Rumble where he wins it, does the whole Flair one bell to the other, and then goes into WrestleMania as the challenger. So the next 6 months builds to that.
Okay. Chad, one storyline you want to see?
The Shield versus the Wyatt family. And a kind of heel versus heel battle headed towards Survivor Series where they can do a multi-man blow-off match.
All right, well, you know I was saving the Wyatt family. We'll get there. Scott?
I'd like to see Waylon Mercy return as Ray's uncle. No, I'm just kidding. I know you want to see that, JR.
Oh, love it.
I'd like to see. I hate to burst Graham's bubble, but I would like to see Punk in the slot of Bryan. I think he's due for his Austin-esque storyline moment where he gets pushed down, beat down. I think he should lose to Brock at SummerSlam and just continue this downward spiral till he gets redemption, wins the Rumble, and gets his main event at WrestleMania in New Orleans.
So it'll be really sad when Bryan throws him out of the ring.
No, it's not going to happen. Just like you've lost all your Spectrum house shows in the attic.
Are you going to be like Cryback?
Cryback.
I'm surprised they make a T-shirt for that. One thing about Jericho, I think Jericho would be a great announcer in the future. Great announcer.
I don't know if he'll stick around long enough to do it, but
probably not. But he may leave and come back in 10 years. He doesn't have to be an announcer now, but I think he's good in the future. But don't forget. See, this is the one good thing about the February Elimination Chamber. You could stick Bryan in that, and he goes for the other belt. So, but I just think Punk wins the Rumble this time.
So Bryan can unify both belts, fight for both.
All right. All right, Chad. Let's start with you on this one. Who are the 2 world champions when the year closes?
When the year closes, I think Dolph Ziggler will be your world heavyweight champion. And I am going to say that Daniel Bryan will be your WWE champion.
Well, okay. Scott?
Wade Barrett will be your world heavyweight champion. And John Cena will be your WWE champion.
And Graham?
I'm going to do craziness, and maybe I'll get one of them right. Wade Barrett, world heavyweight. Brock Lesnar, WWE.
Wow, okay.
I actually thought about Brock.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, last question here before we wrap things up. Scott, will any major name retire, and will any surprise debuts occur in the next 6 months?
I don't know if anybody's going to retire.
All right, let's say start to wind down to retire by WrestleMania. So we'll say between now, we start hearing rumors, and they'll wrap it up around WrestleMania.
Big Show, I think will wrap it up. I know he's not out in right now, but I think he'll get an official retirement. Debuts, Sting. I do think he's going to leave TNA. I didn't disagree with the rumors. I'm just saying it's not going to happen as immediate as WWE makes it sound. But I think Sting wants a rub in WWE. I think he feels the time is now.
All right, Graham, what do you think?
Retirement. And I say it with a smile on my face, The Miz. And he will tear a hamstring, and it'll hurt so bad, and he'll have to sit it out.
Oh god.
Debuts, I'm thinking younger. I would love for them, and I'm sure it's just going to happen naturally. I would love for them to call up Cassius Ohno and Adrian Neville.
Chad?
I don't really see a clear-cut retirement. I'll just say Triple H, maybe fainting a retirement. I think he'll wrestle afterwards, but maybe he'll pretend that this is his retirement match. Debut, I agree that I think Cassius Ohno definitely needs to debut before WrestleMania next year. And but to kind of be a little wacky, one thing that I would love to see would be the Briscoe brothers come in as part of the Wyatt family. I think that's a ready-made fit for them. There's they're out of contract with Ring of Honor, so they could come right in, just bypass NXT. I think they established themselves enough on the indie scene that they could do that without any kind of blowback, and I think that'd be really interesting as kind of an out there angle.
All right, just one name quickly. Start with you, Graham. I know this is for first half of next year, but by the time we do this again, we'll be already hearing rumors. Give me the big Hall of Fame name, 2014.
I could go with Sting.
Chad?
I like Sting. I think Sting's a good one. Yep.
Scott?
Taker.
Oh.
All right, we'll see as we wrap the year. And my final question to you, which Chad has already talked about, so we'll let him start it off. We almost made it the whole time, but what is your prediction for the push and sustained success of the Wyatt family?
I think they can. I think they should be pushed really high. Every person, no matter who it is. Last night I was watching a little bit of the show with my brother, and the Wyatt family vignette came on, and he watches a lot of high quality television, and he was kind of glued to his seat. And again, he thought it was like a trailer for a new FX or HBO show. I think they've done a tremendous job introducing them as a very unique and cool type characters, and that's why I said I wanted to slot them with the Shield, because we've sort of talked about that, short of pretty much jobbing out John Cena in 30 seconds, the Shield kind of feel like they beat everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you did do where it was the Shield versus the Wyatt family, in essence, you're kind of building up two factions without hurting either of them. So I think they'll be definitely mainstay players.
And for them also to have closed out Raw last night with that promo, which is huge.
Yeah, I agree.
Scott?
Well, I don't think they would have put so much effort into these vignettes if they weren't going to be taken seriously. I half disagree with you, though, Chad. I don't know if they're going to put them in the Shield together. I think they want to keep them separate. Would the matches be fun? Absolutely. I think they'd be entertaining clusterfucks, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to stay apart. But I think I'm curious of who they'll hook up with. I think it all comes down to the right opponent. But I think they'll have a sustained run. I'm not going to get into titles or any of that kind of jazz, because I think these guys aren't about that, and that's a good thing. But as long as the writing's good and they're kept strong, I think easily you could see them lasting a good 18 months.
And Graham?
Hopefully longer.
I think they have a very bright future. What has helped them from watching NXT this time is their very strong, distinctive characters. Put the wrestling aside, they're characters. And they are not going to be confused with anyone else on the roster. It's almost a throwback to, say, WWF 1991-92 era. Darker, certainly. But the wrestling is fine. The wrestling is there. They can wrestle. But if they didn't have that aura or that character, that vibe to them, I think they would get lost in the crowd. I hope that what WWE learns from them is to build up their guys to be more than just wrestlers. There's a lot of guys on the roster, they get kind of lost in there because they don't stand out. So I hope we see more distinctive characters in the future.
All right. Well done, everyone. I think we pretty much touched on everything and everyone. That was really well done. We moved through it nicely, and you guys had some insightful points. So why don't we all take a breather? Scott, we have two big trivia matches here to air. And if I'm correct in what I'm thinking, the next two up are Mike Poulin versus King James Mander.
Yes, that is the next one. And
Brian Meyer versus Sean Flaherty.
You are correct.
Okay, so everyone stay tuned. Check those out. We'll be back to wrap things up in a few. All right, Nation, we are back with another great PTB Trivia Tournament matchup here. This is matchup number... What the hell are we, Scott? 11?
10, 11.
All right, 11. Number 11 of the tournament, and we have two new competitors that weren't with us last year, so it should be another good matchup. So let's start off by bringing them in. And we must all bow down because we have royalty in our presence. The PTB debut of King James Mander.
Hello.
Welcome, King.
I like it. All right. And his opponent gets no fancy intro, but he is a good friend of ours here on the Place to Be podcast, and that is the one and only Mike Poulin. Mike, how you doing?
Hello, folks. How is everybody doing tonight?
All right. We're doing well. And this should be a good matchup. Just quickly, again, we're going to go easy, medium. You get 10 seconds for easy, 20 for medium. We're going snake rules. Scott's going to determine who goes first. The home team always gets the chance to match. So, Scott, you flip the coin. Who's up first?
Yes. Mr. Poulin, you'll be first, which means King, you will go second in this round, and then we snake from there. 10 seconds for the easies, 20 for the mediums, and we won't go to hard unless we go to overtime. All right. Mr. Poulin.
Yes.
Pick a number between 1 and 227.
I suppose I'll start at the top of the list with number 1.
Okay. All right. 10 seconds.
Alrighty.
Which NBA star joined forces with the New World Order in 1997?
Dennis Rodman.
All right. 1-0.
1-0. Good start. King James, pick a number.
16.
16. Okay. All right. 10 seconds. Who was the only wrestler to compete at both WrestleManias 10 and 20?
Oh, fuck. Fuck. Oh, fuck.
Good answer.
No, I ain't got it.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
You get that one for this one. Shawn Michaels was at WrestleMania 10 and 20.
Oh,
The
Heartbreak Kid.
What an idiot.
Of course, he battled Razor Ramon at 10 and Chris Benoit and Triple H at 20.
On top of the fact it was 2 5-star matches, too.
Yeah. No sympathy out of us for you, King.
No. But King, you get another question. So pick a number.
8.
Okay. Well, this one has some royalty in it, at least for me. You have 10 seconds. Who filled in for Triple H in a match with Owen Hart on Raw in January of 1998, losing Helmsley's European title in the process?
Oh, my God.
Need an answer.
Oh, my word. I'm going to have to pass again. Oh, dear.
Of course, was Goldust dressed up as Triple H and lost to Owen Hart.
Tough start for the royalty. Mr. Poulin, you have
Yes.
back-to-back. Pick a number.
18.
Okay. All right. 10 seconds. In 1985, NBC decided to air Saturday Night's Main Event as a monthly replacement for which popular program?
Saturday Night Live.
All right, so Mr. Poulin with a 2-0 lead here.
Yes. We now go to the mediums, and Mike, if you get this correct, you are in position to move on to the next round. But we are now in the mediums. So pick a number between 1 and 223.
How about number 25?
Okay. All right. To set yourself up for victory, 20 seconds. On which holiday did Brutus Beefcake suffer his near-fatal accident that led to major facial injuries? It's multiple choice. A, Memorial Day. B, 4th of July. C, Labor Day. D, Columbus Day.
4th of July.
All right, 3-0 lead. But as per the rules, King Mander gets a chance to match. So the King has to get 3 in a row to send this to overtime. 2 easies and a medium.
Okay, let me get back to the easy. Let me switch my counter here. King James, pick a number.
66.
Okay. All right. 10 seconds. Which member of Demolition did not take part in the team's tag title loss to the Hart Foundation at SummerSlam 1990?
Axe.
There's one.
That's one. Another easy coming your way. Pick another one.
124.
Okay. 10 seconds. Who had their head shaved by women's champion Victoria at WrestleMania 20?
Is it Molly Holly?
Very nice. High five.
All right. There's two.
All right.
King must
Now
get
you
this
must
medium
get-
to send
yes,
us
now
to
you must get
overtime.
some- Yes.
Okay. 88.
Okay. All right. 20 seconds. When Natalya made her SmackDown debut in 2008, which diva did she assist in assaulting Cherry and Michelle McCool?
2008. I don't know. It'll have to be Kelly or someone. Yeah, go with it.
Just go on. No! No! Easy. No!
It was Victoria. Victoria, so that means Mr. Mike Poulin. You advanced to round number 2, but that was a hell of a comeback, King. I thought you were going to pull it off.
I need to go to bed.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up then for this matchup. Mike, congratulations. We'll be in touch. Actually, we'll talk to you. Well, never mind. We will. We'll be in touch about when you will be having your second round matchup. And King, we'll talk to you again soon.
All the best.
Scott, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, your pop culture home. Okay, PTB Nation, we are back, and we have trivia matchup number, Scott, spot me, 12?
7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
Matchup number 12 in the 2013 PTB Trivia Tournament. And we have two newbies once again. Two guys that were not part of this tournament last year. It seems to be a theme here towards the back end of this tournament. So first, let's bring in the man that we hung out with the Saturday and Sunday of WrestleMania weekend. Saturday was very interesting, I believe. And, of course, that is the one and only Sean Flaherty. Sean, how you doing?
Good, guys. Thanks for
Do you agree in that Saturday was interesting?
having me on. And well, actually, it's not really thanks. I just lucked out and got in on the board. But
That's right.
that was a very interesting Saturday. It was I can't really repeat a lot of things, but it was very interesting.
All right, it was very fun. All right, let's bring in his opponents, a guy that's very active on the message board and in the podcast feedback. I'm sure you've heard his name many times, Mr. Brian Meyer. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, should be a good matchup. So here is a quick refresh. We're going to go easy, medium. 10 seconds for easy, 20 for medium. First to 3 wins, and of course we're going to go snake fashion. Scott's going to determine who the home team is. The home team will always have a chance to match in that particular round. Yes. So, Scott, tee us up.
All right, Mr. Flaherty, you will go first, and Mr. Meyer, you will go second in this round, and then we snake from there. All right, Mr. Flaherty, open it up. Pick a number between 1 and 227.
I'll go number 5.
Number 5, okay. All right. You have 10 seconds. Who threw in the towel at the 1994 Survivor Series, leading to Bob Backlund defeating Bret the Hitman Hart for the World Wrestling Federation Championship?
Helen Hart.
Very good, Mr. Flaherty. 1-0.
Good start. Okay, Brian, you get back-to-back, 2 in a row. So pick your first one.
I'll go with number 2.
Number 2. Okay. 10 seconds. Which 2 competitors had a legendary best-of-3 falls match as a farewell to ECW before heading to WCW in August of 1995?
I will say Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero.
All right, we're tied 1-1, and boys, just to let you know, questions 1 through 8 are now gone, so we need you to pick from 9 and above.
Okay. And Brian, that means pick another one.
Okay, I'll go with number 10, please.
Okay. 10 seconds. Under what team name did Marcus Bagwell and Scotty Riggs begin to team under in WCW in 1995?
The American Males.
Oh, yeah!
We need you to sing the theme song.
You'll make Matt Rotella's night.
All right, Mr. Flaherty, you are in the hole 2-1, but you have a chance here to actually take the lead with back-to-back questions.
Yes.
All right, I'll go 64.
Okay. 64. Okay. 10 seconds to tie it up. What did Sid use to strike Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario with to capture the World Wrestling Federation Championship at the 1996 Survivor Series?
The video camera.
Very nice. High five.
All right, we're knotted up at 2, and now we move to the mediums.
Yes. You now have 20 seconds. Questions a little tougher. Mr. Flaherty, pick a number.
I'll go.
Between 1 and 220. 1 and 223.
Okay, I'll go 72.
Okay. All right. 20 seconds. Which bizarre music icon had his ukulele smashed by Jerry Lawler on an episode of The King's Court in 1993?
Tiny Tim.
Pretty good.
And now you need to sing his famous song. A lot of singing. Yes. Tiptoe Through the Tulips, of course. All right, so it was 3-2, and Mr. Meyer, you need this, or else Flaherty wins.
All right, I will go with 2.
Okay. 2. Okay. To force overtime, which WWF manager went by the nickname Mr.com in 1998?
The Jackal.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
It was Paul Ellering.
Oh,
Mr. .com.
Yes.
Sean Flaherty with the win. That was a good matchup, guys, right
Feels
down
good.
to the end.
Nice job.
Congratulations, Sean.
So
thanks,
hopefully
Brian.
that's a harbinger of things to come for you on this night, Sean, although I guess we'll know by the time this airs.
Hopefully he's one victory down, and now we need the Bruins to win it in the third.
The entire Stanley Cup playoffs may be over by the time this airs, so let's we'll go to wrap.
Oh yeah, that would be funny.
We'll go ahead and wrap up. Brian, good job. We'll talk to you soon. Sean, we'll be in touch to set up your second round matchup. Scott, let's take a break. We'll be right back. All right, Nation. Hope you enjoyed this look back at the first half of 2013 and those two trivia matchups as well. We are dwindling down here in the first round.
So disappointing, the King.
Yeah, what can you do? You know, Poulin took him to the mat.
Mr. Flaherty moves on, though. That's very good.
Yeah, so we'll see who they match up against. So now we only have 4 matchups left, so we'll wrap up the first round next week. Yep. Scott, speaking next week, Monday night, we'll be back with the 2000 Royal Rumbles. We kick off a new millennium in the world of wrestling.
Yep.
And Wednesday night, we have headlines. We'll be doing Money in the Bank preview.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do some... we'll see what else we got going on. Might be a shortened show since we're recording some trivia that night. So, there you go. There's next week. Hope you guys enjoyed this look back. Graham, we want to thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again in 6 months. Maybe before then. We'll see.
Probably before then.
Probably not.
No.
And Chadley, we'll talk to you all day, every day. So let's wrap up. Everyone, be sure to listen to Where the Big Boys Play. Of course, that's Chad and Parv's NWA WCW themed podcast. Excellent stuff. They just wrapped up the 80s with their award show. Moving into 1990 next. Also, visit PlaceToBeNation.com. Had a lot of good stuff going on today. There's a piece up by myself on the wellness violation of Ricardo Rodriguez and other past wellness violations as well. Callum Leslie has a great piece on 10 major MMA fights you don't want to miss coming up this summer. New Todd Weber Has Issues is up, Lazarus #1 and Batman Superman #1, plus Scott's Raw recap. We Found New Music, episode 29, Grant Owens, and of course last night's pay-per-view. Last night's podcast was like a pay-per-view with Kevin Kelly wrapping up the second half of 1999. A lot of good stuff coming this week as well, including the Pop Culture Desert Island Tournament kicks off Thursday with the first 4 matchups, so stay tuned to that. Stay tuned to the Facebook and Twitter. We'll have more details on that as well. So let's wrap up. Visit the website. Visit everything else. We're the place to be. I'm Justin. That's Scott. That's Graham. That's Chad. We're out. Talk to you Monday night.
Later.
He's broken out in love.